How we doing, gents? Welcome to this is the last episode actually of Q1, obviously, because of the timing of where we're at. And this one is live across socials. So I think we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, multiple Facebook platforms, potentially even on Twitter, which is now known as X to the kids. So all the places, basically. Nowhere else to be on a Thursday night, but right here with us. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. We've got some headline news just there, but I'll just have a quick check-in with everyone as people join. Mr. Pulford, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, we can just about see your whiteboard. It looks like there's business on there. So,
not legible business. Hopefully people can't read it, but it's tell you what. There you go. Bye.
All great estate agents have terrible handwriting. Confirmed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like can't do that this month, but we can do it next month.
Absolutely. Luke, you are the teacher's pet because you managed to get the graphic behind you today, introducing your business. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I actually had it pre-uploaded. That was the hack. It was there for me. There was no sort of secret to it. I just had it there and clicked on it. But no, good.
You leveraged the skill set in the group. Advantage. Well done. Mike, you're in the big wide office.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm alone.
Is it lonely there? Is it cold? Is the heating on?
It's peaceful after this week.
Yep.
We had 18 in here at one point the other day.
This is our second podcast together of the day, Mike. So we're probably going to be bored of each other by the end of it, but we're going to share some knowledge bombs. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And there is a monkey hanging out of the roof over your right shoulder, I believe. For anyone that's wondering, that guy's called Gary. Okay. Right. Gary the gorilla.
Okay, fine. But he's a monkey, so how can he be Gary the gorilla?
Yeah, well, there you go.
He's got no tail. He's definitely not a monkey.
Is a monkey, a chimp, and a gorilla all the same thing, or are we saying they're different?
I think it's about having a tail, Ian. Apes and monkeys or something. One has a tail, one doesn't.
Should we talk about property?
I've got a 6-year-old. That's what 6-year-olds teach you.
Should we talk about property?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm more interested in finding out if gorillas and monkeys are the same.
Right, headline news for those that have seen it down the bottom. So, stamp duty holiday comes to an end on Monday. A long stamp duty holiday goes back to the original threshold. I've got that graphic. I will share that with you later for everyone that's watching. And if you are watching or listening, could you please just drop us a little like if you're on socials, pop a little comment in, get a question in early if you want, or just simply let me know that you can hear us. That's great. It means that we can continue with confidence knowing people are actually listening and watching. That would be super. What else is going on? Zoopla house price report came out yesterday. They have highlighted that year on year, the average house price has increased by 1.8%. So just below inflation. Mike, what is inflation at the moment as of the last number?
3.
Go with 2.8. Was it? I'm gonna get on Google.
Okay, you come back to me.
I think it's 3, Mike.
Your title is the Property News Reporter.
2.8.
2.8.
Hello.
There we go. 1-0 to Mike, if Jamie was here. We've got a legitimate 1-0 as well. We've got 11% more properties for sale in the UK. Year on year, this is, bear in mind. And I have to put that caveat in. Year on year paints a very different picture to 6 months and 6 months. And we'll get into that in a second. 10% more buyers in demand. I think, Matt, someone was just about to try and get in your office. That would be a bit awkward live on TV.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking whether the cleaner's going to pop in a minute and then work out what's going on. But
yeah, I just look at like, why is that guy working so late? He's normally finished by 3.
I might lock the office quickly just so that.
What else is going on? We can do some avocado figures because this is more live and relevant, because I think the market in the last 3 months is very different to a year-on-year market because of the stamp duty. Bonkers amount of viewings in January, and then a 29% drop-off for viewing requests in February compared to January, and then a further 5% drop-off from February through to March. So that's live, real viewing requests. And as Mike and Matt will say, from an avocado point of view, there's been more listings on the market. So we've seen a steady drop-off throughout the quarter of viewing requests I think to do with the stamp duty, but I'll come to the room with that. So let's just talk about that. Matt, you're the agent on the ground, and how have you found things, across Q1? Would you say January is very different to March, or similar? What would you say?
Yeah. Those stats are pretty accurate based on how we're seeing things as well. And as you do, when you value houses, you do it based on current trend and how things are going. So a lot of the houses that we saw towards the end of last year, December, then start of this year into January, those values are just different compared to what they are here and now. Very much see that buyer demand is not down, but probably more for the right valued property, I think, is the key bit, because we've listed a really lovely 3-bedroom house in Wokingham, which has got 8 or 9 viewings scheduled for this Saturday and a couple into the early part of next week. So there's still buyer demand out there. People still want to view houses. But I think there's, as per our conversation yesterday, I think there's an awful lot going on in the world at the moment. Stocks market, share prices, Bitcoin, everything's like moving around at 20-30% at a time, and people don't really necessarily want to pull money out to invest it in if they're not sure where the prices are going to go.
Yeah, interesting. What about you, Luke? In the surveying world, obviously you get a good finger on the pulse with what's going on, because you don't need to be blagged by any of the buyers or sellers within the room. You're just there as a kind of an advisory. What are you seeing in March compared to January? Is there much difference?
I think what we do see, because obviously we deal with sort of a broad area and lots of different agents and different types of stock and different value areas. At the start of the year, I think there was a lot more certainty when stuff was getting tied up as far as houses being sold or changed, because people were still aiming for that beat the stamp duty reversion. In the last month, there's been a lot more people sort of flitting between, I was going to buy that, but this one's now come on and I'm now going to look at or buy that. There seems to just be more purchaser choice, and there's a lot more transactions that seem to be, we were going to be surveying, we're now no longer surveying, but they're now requesting a survey over here. So it just appears that the purchaser has more choice or is debating harder on what they're going to buy.
Yeah, interesting. And here's the graphic, just for the people that are watching and listening to us, if they're kind of wondering, well, what does it actually mean? Well, this is effectively what's changing. So I kind of sum it up that for the majority of people out there that are not first-time buyers, it looks like you're effectively going to have to pay $2,500 more tax that was obviously saved with this holiday that's now effectively coming back. The first-time buyer margins are where it's slightly different. Mike, we were talking, you said you think certain first-time buyers potentially could cost them up to about $6,000 difference, kind of this week to next week. Would that be fair?
It's the most it can possibly be. So at the highest level, that's as high as it can go as the price difference or the tax difference, which is why we've seen such a massive rush through of exchange of contracts in the last 7 to 14 days.
And that is exactly what we're seeing at the moment in the market, isn't there? It's kind of pandemonium it was pandemonium to get them exchanged, and now it's all the completions, especially tomorrow, a few on Monday, but tomorrow's going to be crazy. I'd imagine you're busy. Are you, Matt, tomorrow?
We're all of ours already done. So we were quite deliberate with it. We've been on the pulse very early on into towards the end of February and early March, making sure that people were ready. So our last 3 of the stamp duty part completed today. So we've got nothing else. We're all done and dusted.
Across the group, Mike, you said to me on the train today that it will be the busiest day for the group of completions in the nearly 5 years that we've been in existence, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're set to complete on, at the moment, not including anything that exchanges and completes on the day, we're set to complete on 28 tomorrow. And putting that in context, generally speaking, we'll complete on about 60 sales a month. So that's half a month's business in a day.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on. Lot going on. I had a question from one of the people that subscribed and signed up to the webinar. And thank you for those that have done that. It's great to give us an idea of kind of numbers and stuff. This one's for you, Luke, knowing that there's a surveyor on. Excuse me, I think you shared this very articulate way on the first episode, actually. But could you just repeat it for those watching on socials? What are the different types of property surveys, I think they mean, for buyers?
Well, let's hope I managed to go somewhere near the last time if it was eloquent and delivered well. I think there's probably 4 to very light touch cover. A snagging survey is essentially for a new build house. It's looking at the property's complete, it's being handed over as new, so it should be delivered as new. So are there any scuffs, marks, chips, pieces of incomplete or poor workmanship? And that is real detailed analysis of everything from a chip in a door to the roof. It's absolutely everything. So that's very specifically for new build properties that people are purchasing. Level 1 survey used to be called a condition report. It's a very light touch survey. It's sort of right, okay, roof, good, poor, average condition, and a very brief statement. So typically suitable for properties under 10 years old. In reality, anything over that, you'll struggle to get the right level of detail to make an informed decision. A level 2 survey, which is typically known as in the industry and was previously called a home buyers survey. That is for properties from that sort of 10-year period up to 50, 60 years old, but typically properties that are traditional construction in a reasonable condition and haven't been drastically altered. So there's no sort of 2-story extension and garage conversion and a loft conversion, because that's getting into the realms of something more complex. And then finally, you've got the level 3, which can be called full building survey, used to be called full structural survey, but the level 3 survey is sort of the gold standard, goes into the most detail, and would typically be conducted on properties that are old. They might be being bought as a project. The purchaser might have plans to do future works, like do an extension or a loft conversion, so they want to get a better understanding of how the house is currently constructed. Or something that's of particularly high value where everything is much bigger, and potentially it's a much larger house, and they just want to make sure that there isn't any smaller issue, but when you times the area that the property sits within, it still becomes quite an expensive financial implication if you miss it. So probably in summary of age and ignoring condition, snagging brand new, level 1 condition report, something under 10 years old, level 2, something between 10 and 50, 60 years old, but in good condition and not massively altered, level 3, gold standard, can't get sort of more detailed than that, and typically for older properties, project properties, or you just want the highest level of detail for the most comfort when purchasing.
Nice. I'd say you were slightly longer. I think last time that was about a 9 out of 10. That one was a solid 8 out of 10. So
Can we press Luke to answer the original question of different types of surveyors that are out there?
no,
Good,
that is
bad, and indifferent, I think, is probably a polite way of putting it.
probably not for a live one on socials, I would say. We'll save that for a rainy day. Mike loves a lot of surveyors. Quick budget review. Obviously, there was the budget yesterday. Property market, part of that. Quick review. That's it. That's all that was discussed, basically. When it comes to property on the budget, there was not a lot. A bit of boasting about what might be done with planning, and apparently the experts have forecasted lesser projected growth, and that was about it. So not much to report on there. Don't forget, it's a live Q&A, so if you do have a question, please do drop it into the comments and we'll get straight into it. Matt, this one is for you. this was an anonymous post, and I can understand why. Probably because they didn't want to disclose live on the chat who they were and what agent they're on with. It's not an avocado seller. My house has been for sale for 4 months. Only had 5 viewings, no offers. What are my options?
Okay. Firstly, it's a shame to see them even in that position. But I think if you've got to 4 months, you will probably find that most estate agency businesses, their contracts would either have ended or ending soon, and just be cautious of the small print on it, because often businesses will require another 2 weeks worth of notice if you give them notice. Now, the difficulty I always have with when you get to this point is like, do I jump from the pan to fire into the pan to fire, move from one business to another business to keep the price the same and just go from one estate agent to the next? No, I don't think that's the right idea. I think if you've been there for the past 4 months, you need to look at 4 or 5 different parts of it. You need to look at the marketing of the house, the advertising of the house, the estate agent that's representing you, and also the price. Now, I think if you're happy with the marketing and the advertising, generally speaking, most estate agents will do it the same way. We're obviously very different than that. We're much more bespoke with the videography and the process that we run through, but that's probably a conversation for another time. But I think generally it then falls down to estate agent and price. Now, are they really trying to drive traffic through the door? Are they trying to get the right people? Or did they just tell you what you wanted to hear when you listed it? And it's just sat there for much longer than it needs to. And even if you've made an adjustment or two, every time you put a reduction online, everybody thinks, why isn't that sold? Or I might wait for it to go down again before I go and view. Instantly lose that leverage. So I think in short, you've got loads of options, right? You can change agent, first one. You can stick with the same agent if you believe that they're the right people for you. And I would suggest that that's probably not the case if you've had 5 viewings in 4 months. It's probably a more in detailed chat, which would probably really help this person to understand what their motivations are behind moving, whether that's right to do it now, whether that's right to just take a pause for a minute, because as much as every property out there, everybody hopes they sell straight away, it doesn't always work as well as you'd want it to. So sometimes a little bit of a break away can do you the world of good. A bit of low-key marketing just to make sure that you do it, give it the right exposure the next time that you go. But I think if you've got an agent that's only introduced 5 viewings over the past 4 months, it doesn't sound like they're working hard enough for you. So I would suggest it's probably that and a mixture of price as well. So sometimes that's difficult though, because not everybody wants to reduce their price. They've got that fixed. They know what they've been told. They now spent that already somewhere else. But I think it's the whole take off, reevaluate, go again would probably be what I do.
Good, like that. Anything to add on that, Mike?
No, I think he covered that spectacularly.
What was the score? What was the score on that?
Oh, it's comprehensive. It is what it is. If you've had 5 viewings in 4 months, from the point of view of trying to sell your house isn't going to sell. And the fastest way to get a reaction is to appoint a new agent for sure, because you can remove your house for 2 weeks and then list it for fresh, which for one reason or another does give you a shot in the arm. But you have to make sure that your pricing is right, because as you said earlier, and it's going through the ticker at the bottom, reminding me there's 11% more properties for sale than there were last year. So you've got 11% more competition. So there's a good chance that there's another house which is similar to yours, which your buyers will go and view. And as they're more on the market, they'll get more confused over what to view and probably hold off making a decision, then view 2 more next week that come available. So you have to be compelling. The house has to be right, and the house has to be the right price in order to secure a buyer. So you have to do some selling now rather than just some listing.
Yeah.
There's a blog, I put it in the comments on the Avocado website. Sorry, a little bit croaky tonight. I'd score myself a 5 out of 10 currently in hosting levels. But there is a blog that I put in. I'm back in the game. There's a blog that I've put in the links, and it's 6 reasons why your property hasn't sold. You can find it on the Avocado Advice channel. I'll skip over that. So, Mike, kind of carrying on from what you were just saying there, what are your expectations? Because seasonally, we can, between us all here, we've been in the game long enough where we can more or less forecast what looks like a normal 12 months for the property market. But for buyers and sellers out there, what's different this year is obviously this stamp duty thing has really driven a lot more completions than what we would normally see. What's your expectations kind of over the next 3 quarters for the year?
Well, I think the year's going to kind of work back to front. Normally, house sales, everything starts in January. You see the first-time buyers and the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom flats coming available in January. Then you get a ripple effect into 3 and 4 and 5-bedroom houses around about now, and the market really starting to take light as it's light in the evenings and sort of things start moving. We've had an awful lot of the business that is going to be done, a number of completions that are going to be done already. So it's almost as if the 1st of April is going to be the 1st of January to an extent, and everything resets and starts again because there's a new set of rules that people need to kind of get used to, be aware of, plan for, budget for. And as we said, there's a little bit less money in the pockets of those sort of Berkshire parents who quite often fund the first-time buyers. Well, they feel like there's a little bit less money in their pockets with sort of unrealised pension funds and stocks and shares funds. So they're going to be a little bit less likely to just cash in and throw money at their first-time buyer children, which quite often fires the market here. So I think interest rates are going to be flat for the rest of the year. I think prices are going to be reasonably flat for the rest of the year. So that means if you're a seller, like I just said, you're going to have to work harder to sell your house, because if house prices are going up by 2% a month, people are panicking to get on the housing ladder. If house prices are going nowhere, there's not a massive motivation to buy in April or December. People will just hang out until the perfect house comes along. So maybe prior to advertising, put that £500 budget down and make your house look perfect rather than okay. Just take your time, do it right, is what I would say if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, we know, we've already said it, you've got more choice. And that means that you've got a little bit more time on your hands to make a decision. But if a house comes on at the right price and is well presented, don't be surprised to turn up on a Saturday and an agent tell you there's 15 viewings, because the market's still active. I'm looking at sales across the board in our area, and sales are still strong. Sales are the same sort of strength, it's just our listings are higher. So same number of houses are selling, but more houses are coming available. So it's increased competition for sellers.
Luke, you were nodding. Tend to agree. Like
Thanks,
what Mike had to say?
Yeah, I'll give him a solid. I'll have to go 8 because you only gave me an 8. But yeah, at least an 8 out of 10. I think that's going to be. I completely agree with what Mike said. I think that will be the general sentiment for this year, and I think it's from a seller's perspective, much like you said. What can you do to either better present from a property perspective or an information perspective to the prospective purchasers that will make your house stand out? So that whether that's some money on sorting out the little bits and bobs that you live with, but somebody will notice when they walk into the property for the first time, be that from if you said a surveying perspective, a pre-marketing survey, so that you can hand the buyer, this is the condition of the house, these are the bits that either do or don't need doing. They're viewing 3 very similar properties, but one, they know definitively what the either good, bad, or indifferent points are about it. They're probably more likely to consider that one more seriously because they feel like there's more certainty around the outcome because the information's being presented to them. So presentation, information, all of it really, just get everything as prepared as you can so that your position as a seller, which obviously we frequently talk about for buyers, your position as a seller is as attractive as possible with the property you're presenting. I think that's probably one of the sort of niche changes that this year I think more people will take on board, and good agents will encourage people to do.
10 out of 10. I'll give you a 10 out of 10. I like that. I like what you said. Matt, what advice, or what type of conversations have you been having with sellers in the living room that haven't come to the market yet this month? Has that been any different to sort of former months or anything over the last 12 months?
I think it's a lot of it's around planning of when you plan to go live. I think a lot of this can't be rushed now. I think if you do the whole, I'm going to instruct an estate agent today, photos are happening tomorrow, it's going to go live on Saturday, and I'm going to do this and go, that's what I think the house is worth, doesn't work at the moment. You need to be more strategic. You need to plan it out. You need to really test the market first before you jump out there. And I think anybody that's not providing that guidance or support to the consumer, the seller, needs to really think twice about what they're doing. The guidance and support Matt and I are giving to our customers and the people we go and see is exactly that. Don't rush this process in a more challenging market, which is where it is at the moment. We're certainly in a more buyer's market. They tend to get the deals out there at the moment, not the sellers. You need to make sure that you're exhausting everything you possibly can to understand the right price before you jump online. And it's no more than that. You can't do anything other than that. The listing a house tomorrow, getting it online doesn't work. It can work as long as you're competitive. Like, you've got to really uncomfortably competitively price your house. Yeah. If you think it's worth 450, don't put it on at 450. Put it on at 420, 425. Right? You want to get the phones ringing. I want to have more people through the front door, so I've got a choice of buyer rather than having one person in 4 weeks' time.
And the same applies when things move up. You know, if you're looking at an upsize, for example, and you want to be in the power position and like Matt says, kind of be competitively priced, maybe going at 420, agree something at maybe 435 if the price is really competitive and you do get some good levels. But then you've got the same ability because you're in the power position to go and secure the onward, you know, at 720 or whatever it is. And you can kind of make that work. And it's remembering that typically people are selling a home because they want to buy another home. So think of the move as a single net package rather than the micro sections of it and knit it all together to make it work for what your goal is, basically. So that's definitely some good advice there from everyone. And we've got Tom coming on from Mortgage Tribe next month, but it seems like mortgage rates have just sort of flatlined a little bit, haven't they, really, from what we're seeing? Kind of that seems, and talking to Tom and talking to people in the finance world, it seems like that's likely to stay the same throughout the course of the year. So if you're waiting for rates to go back down to where they were, that it's just not going to happen. Plan your move now. The other thing that I think is quite interesting to talk about before we wrap up is how difficult it is and how expensive it is now to extend a property. And I think that's a big part of people's planning and decision making that's going on, because a lot of people think, oh, we might go over the garage, but then they get the quote to go over the garage or do the garage, and it's like, no, we could not, we might as well move. Mike, talk to us about your extension.
I bet it's quite cheap.
No, I'm joking. I mean, Mike knows firsthand that me and him were joking on a landlord podcast, and trades are in the last sort of 10 years of pretty much 4 times the price, would you say, materials and trades to do these things over the last decade?
Yeah, it's gone up. The only word is exponentially. I'm leaving it at that. I'm a little bit sensitive at the moment, to be honest, financially and egotistically sensitive. It costs a lot of money. You're at the borderline. You used to be able to put a room over a garage for maybe in a typical suburban area for about £50,000 and add maybe up to 75 to 100 to the value of the house. It will now cost you more like 100 to add 75 to 100.
Exactly.
And then you've got to decorate it and furnish it and go through the enjoyment of the dust and the experience of ordering glazing and joy of steelwork which cracks the rest of your house.
Sounds like you're really enjoying this.
Yeah,
Mike.
I mean, fire away. If anyone wants to talk extensions to me, my number's withheld.
Moral of the story: just move house rather than extend it. I mean, Mike did move house and then extended, but move house. You know, that seems to be the most cost-effective way to do it. I think the other thing that is just worth mentioning is when, as we said here, year on year, 1.8% price growth. When it is kind of that flat and sits just below inflation, everyone feels a bit more stable. There's a bit more confidence there. It's a bit of a panic when, you know, the stamp duty thing happens. There's a bit of a panic when rates change and stuff. It's not that much of a panic, and you can be quite, you can feel quite confident in what's going on. And it also means you don't have buyers going, oh, you know, that one has come down in price or that one's come on the market. It's everything's a bit more comfortable. A good estate agent, good broker, you know, on your side will make a really good difference. I do think that, as Luke said, you know, for those older properties now, take your time and get one of those pre-condition reports, you know, get a pre-sale survey done if your property is a bit older, because the last thing you want to do is go through what might take you longer to find a buyer, and then something pops up in the survey and it all goes wrong 6 months down the line. There's so much time wasted for everyone, disappointment. Just spend a couple of £100 getting that survey done before you go to market if your house is 30 odd plus years old, and it will make a world of a difference to the security for the agent when they're doing the viewing, the buyer knowing that's already happened, and you knowing there's not going to be any hidden surprises just before exchange. So I think we're all a big fan of trying to introduce that to the UK market, because there isn't much sort of barrier to entry in the UK market, is there, Matt? There's not really anything that kind of locks people in like there is in other countries, or an auction or anything. So getting a survey definitely would help, I think, everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool.
Just
James,
on the economic side, just to throw it in there, you said house price.
Here we go. I was waiting for this, Mike. Let's do it.
1.8%.
We've had half an hour, haven't we? So we need to finish.
Yeah. This is good.
Bye.
This is let's take inflation away and put wage growth in. Wage growth is 5.8% year on year. So technically, house prices have actually fallen by 4% in the last year. So houses are much more affordable than they were this time last year, based on national statistics. Luke loves it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, love that. 10 out of 10. But speak to Jo in Sainsbury's and ask her if you think that she's got 4% more money. I don't think she.
They do. They're at the bottom. That's where most of the wage growth is.
True.
Jo works overtime. She is not the bottom. She is.
Just a quick thing. Sorry, Ian. A quick thing for me. Anyone that's looking out there that's upsizing, that house price, your house price. Say, for example, your house price is 450. You get 430. You get 420. That proportionate percentage that you get is generally going to be seen on the way up as well. So in a stagnant market where property prices aren't really moving, or we're in a slightly more buyer demand heavy area, we've got more houses available, and you're maybe not quite getting the same price you want to, that's going to happen on the way up as well. So your growth, your jump up is actually less than it would be in a really buoyant market. Hopefully I've explained that well enough for anybody to understand, but it makes sense to me. And I think if you are looking to move and you're looking to make that upsize, especially with stable interest rates, you can go in there confidently knowing you're not going to be wasting a lot of money on interest over the next year to 18 months, and know that you're not paying massive sky-high prices on the next house that you want.
Yeah, great way. Love that. Wrap that up. 10 out of 10 all round.
I was going to ask you, what was my score from last time? I didn't get the score, so
you don't want to know.
Okay, fine.
And just to confirm, that's not Mike's extension. That is the office. Luke is from Survey Network. If you do need a survey, speak to the team there. They will help you. And if you're selling a property in Wokingham, there's nowhere else to go but the double act that is Matt and Matt. If you want to know who the other Matt is, book a valuation on the website and you might find out. We will see you next month. Thank you, everyone that joined.